The San Francisco 49ers are a team that, when healthy, can truly be considered among the elite in the NFL, and honestly, the glass is half full when we look at what this team can do. But the truth is that the biggest obstacle the Niners face is not talent. It is staying on the field for years. Injuries have been the story, and it has become a recurring theme that prevents this roster from reaching its full potential. If they can finally solve the health issue, there is no reason they should not be a top 5 Super Bowl contender next season. The pieces are there, the coaching is there, and the quarterback situation is stable. The missing ingredient has been the ability to keep key players available when it matters most. What the 49ers need to do is take a hard look at the strength and conditioning staff and the entire health management system. This is not about blaming anyone. It is about recognizing that the current approach is not enough. From weight training to recovery, from injury prevention to the practice routine, there are areas that need improvement. The way the team manages players' bodies has to be elevated if the Niners want to maximize their chances of winning a Super Bowl. It is not sustainable to be among the top teams in the league and constantly be dealing with a long list of injuries. Something has to change, and it might even require looking beyond the current setup. If ownership needs to investigate even the location of the practice field, then that is what needs to happen. Get studies done. Gather the data and find out what is really causing so many injuries. When a team is constantly banged up, you have to question whether the environment, the practice surface, or the training methods are contributing to the problem. The reality is that the Niners have enough talent to win it all in a year where the NFC is wide open, and the competition is not as dominant as it has been in previous seasons. The number 1 seed in the AFC suffered a major blow when their quarterback broke his ankle and is out for the year, which only shows how unpredictable the league can be. The 49ers had a real chance to capitalize on this kind of year, but injuries prevented them from reaching the level they could have. Even with all the setbacks, San Francisco still managed to make it to the second round of the playoffs. And they did it with a defense that was missing key starters and an offense that had clear flaws. That alone speaks to the strength of the roster and the resilience of the team. But now the offseason is here, and the Niners have to make sure they address the weaknesses that were exposed during the season. The offensive line is at the top of that list. If the 49ers want to compete for a Super Bowl, they cannot enter next year with the same line that has been struggling against top competition. Since 2021, this offensive line has been exposed in the biggest games, and this season it happened again, especially against Seattle. The Seahawks are the primary rival in the NFC West, and their defense is one of the most well-coached units in the league. You cannot win a championship with an average offensive line, and that is the hard truth. There is also a lack of confidence that the Niners will actually address this problem. When Kyle Shanahan recently said that Jake Brendel is one of the best centers in the NFL, it did not inspire much faith that the team is ready to upgrade. Brendel may be smart and excellent at calling protections, but the physical side of the position is not strong enough. A center has to be able to hold up against the best defenders in the league, and the Niners have been exposed when it matters most. The offensive line has struggled to protect the quarterback and create consistent running lanes, and that has limited the entire offense. If you cannot control the line of scrimmage, it becomes impossible to sustain drives and put pressure on opposing defenses. On top of that, the wide receiver room is another area that needs a major rebuild. There are talented players, but the group lacks a true vertical threat who can stretch the field consistently. Deebo Samuel is a great player, but can he stay healthy long enough to be the answer every year? The truth is, the Niners do not have a receiver who consistently scares defenses down the field. In the last game, the receivers combined for only 3 catches and 24 yards on 10 targets. That is not the kind of production that makes a defense worry. Seattle did not fear the 49ers receiving cores, and that is a major problem. With players like Jawan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne set to hit free agency, the team will need to make serious decisions about who they keep and who they replace. The current receiving group includes players like Deebo Samuel, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins, and Jacob Cowing, with Robinson having an option into the following year. But the lack of a true downfield threat is glaring, and the team cannot rely on a group that does not consistently force defenses to respect the pass. Brandon Ayuk may not be in the picture next season, and that means the 49ers must find a way to add playmakers. One possible option could be pursuing a player like Kyle Pitts, who is a mismatch nightmare in the red zone and can create matchup problems for linebackers. The issue with Pitts is that he is not a great blocker, which is a key part of the 49ers offense if they do pursue a player like him. It could mean making tough decisions about other receivers, but it could also bring a new dimension to the offense. And then there is the question of what Christian McCaffrey will look like next season. He had a fantastic year, but it feels like it was not fully maximized because the team did not make a move at the trade deadline and because injuries limited the offense. McCaffrey has carried the offense in so many ways, and it is inevitable that the wear and tear will catch up with him at some point. The running back room also has questions. Brian Robinson will be a free agent, and Jordan Mason showed promise as one of the few bright spots in the game. It took a long time for him to get carries, and that is something the team will need to evaluate moving forward. But when it comes to Brock Purdy, there are no question marks in my mind. He made some incredible plays and showed why he is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. The problem is that the offensive line did not give him the support he needed, and it is unfair to expect him to be successful when he is constantly under pressure on defense. The question of Robert Saleh's future is something to watch if he does leave. It would be interesting to see if the team promotes from within or looks outside for a coordinator. There are strong candidates who could bring a fresh perspective to the defense, and the return of players like Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and Fred Warner would instantly improve the unit. The rookies also showed promise, with players like Alfred Collins, C.J. West, and Ulysses St. Brown standing out. Bryce Huff has shown he can be a solid pass rusher, but he is not the star edge defender that some teams rely on. The linebacker position alongside Fred Warner is also a concern. The team needs a reliable player who can complement Warner's elite talent. Nick Martin has shown potential, but he suffered a concussion and has not been seen since. That is another health question that needs answers. The cornerback situation also has uncertainties. The team needs a reliable option opposite Diamador Lenoir. And Renardo Green has shown potential, but has not proven to be a long-term solution. The safety play has been inconsistent all season, and that is another area that must be addressed. Malik Mustafa has shown flashes, but the coverage has been an issue. Marcel Harris has been a liability in coverage, and Jason Pinnock has struggled to find a consistent role. A veteran safety could be a valuable addition to stabilize the back end. What is interesting is that I have more questions about the offense than the defense, and that says a lot about the direction the team needs to take. Seattle clearly dominated the Niners, and it was a game that San Francisco needed to play perfectly to win. The team did not execute cleanly, and it showed from the very beginning. A 41-6 loss is a brutal way to end the season, but it should not erase the fact that this was a fun year for the 49ers. They went 12-5 despite everything that happened, and they won a playoff game, which is a success in itself going into next year. The Niners will be considered one of the top Super Bowl contenders, and their schedule is favorable with a third-place schedule. But the roster issues and health problems must be addressed if the team wants to take the next step. The biggest need for the Niners this offseason is to get healthy, and that may require spending money and making changes. When we talk about the 49ers offseason priorities, it is easy to get lost in the names and the drama. But the core truth is that the team has to build a roster that can stay healthy and sustain a long playoff run. It is not just about adding talent. It is about adding the right pieces in the right places and making sure the team can remain intact when the pressure is highest. The NFL is a brutal league, and the teams that win championships are the ones that can avoid the injury spiral and keep their best players on the field. That is the challenge the Niners must solve if they truly want to be a top contender next season. The offensive line must be the biggest focus. The Niners cannot keep going into the season with the same issues that have plagued them for years. The line needs more physicality, more consistency, and more depth. It needs players who can win in the trenches and dominate the opponents, not just hold their own. If the 49ers want to make a serious Super Bowl push, they have to be able to run the ball effectively and protect Brock Purdy. It is not enough to have a great quarterback and a talented running back if the line cannot give them the time and space to operate. The Seahawks showed what happens when the line is not up to the task, and the Niners were exposed in a way that cannot be ignored. The question is whether the front office is willing to admit that the line is not good enough. There is a tendency to cling to the belief that the current group is fine, but the evidence says otherwise. The team has been exposed in the biggest games, and that is not a coincidence if the 49ers want to be taken seriously as a Super Bowl contender. They must upgrade the line and do it with urgency. This is not a position where you can wait for development. You need proven players who can perform against the best defenses in the league. The team has to be willing to spend money and take the necessary steps to make that happen. At the same time, the wide receiver position needs a reset. The team has to bring in a true vertical threat who can change the way defenses play against them. The current group does not consistently stretch the field, and that allows defenses to focus on the run and the short passing game. The 49ers need a receiver who can win one-on-one matchups and force corners to respect the deep ball. That kind of player changes the entire offense and opens up the rest of the playbook. Without that, the offense will continue to feel limited, and the pressure will always fall on the running game and the tight ends. A player like Kyle Pitts would be an interesting option because he can create mismatches and be a dynamic playmaker. The question is whether the team is willing to adjust their offensive scheme to incorporate a player like him. Pitts is not known for his blocking, and the 49ers offense has always relied on tight ends who can contribute in the run game. But if Shanahan and the staff can find a way to use him effectively, he could become a major weapon. The 49ers have always been creative in how they use their tight ends, and Pitts could be the next evolution of that. It would require some adjustments, but the potential upside is significant. Christian McCaffrey's future is another key factor. He had an outstanding season, but there is always a risk that the wear and tear will catch up to him. The Niners need to make sure they have a plan for when he is not at full strength, or when he needs to be managed more carefully. That means building a running back room that can support him and take some of the load off his shoulders. It also means ensuring the offensive line is strong enough to help him find running lanes and avoid constant hits. The team cannot rely on McCaffrey to carry the offense on his back, especially if the line is not improving. The question of how much the team will rely on Brock Purdy next season is another important consideration. Purdy proved he is a top-tier quarterback and showed the ability to make plays under pressure, but he cannot do it alone. The offense needs more weapons, and the line must give him time to make decisions. The team also needs to evaluate the coaching staff and ensure the scheme is built to support the players they have. The 49ers have a talented roster, but the key is to build a system that allows that talent to shine. If the team can do that, they will be one of the most dangerous teams in the league. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFC West may be on the verge of one of its most explosive plot twists in recent memory. Whispers circulating around league circles suggest that DK Metcalf, the physical and outspoken wide receiver who became one of the faces of Seattle, could be headed south to San Francisco. Nothing has been confirmed, but the mere possibility has already set social media, locker rooms, and front offices buzzing, adding fuel to one of the NFL's most heated rivalries. Metcalf in a 49ers uniform feels almost unthinkable. For years, he has embodied Seattle's identity, power, swagger, and a constant willingness to challenge defenses vertically and physically. Seeing that same skill set potentially deployed by San Francisco, a direct rival that Seattle fans love to hate, would represent more than a simple roster move. It would be a psychological blow, a reminder that no rivalry is immune to the modern NFL's business realities. From San Francisco's perspective, the speculation makes a certain amount of football sense. The team has consistently searched for another dominant presence on the outside, someone capable of winning one-on-one matchups and changing how defenses align. Metcalf's rare combination of size and speed would instantly command attention and could transform the dynamic of the 49ers passing game. Even as a rumor, the idea hints at a bold, aggressive approach from a franchise that already prides itself on physicality. On the Seattle side, the potential departure of Metcalf raises questions about direction and identity. Letting a player of his caliber land with a division rival would be controversial, to say the least, yet speculation suggests that contract considerations, long-term planning, or philosophical shifts could be at play behind closed doors. In today's NFL, loyalty often competes with salary caps and future flexibility. Whether this rumor materializes or fades away, its impact is already being felt. Fans are debating, analysts are reading between the lines, and the rivalry between Seahawks and 49ers feels newly electrified. If DK Metcalf truly were to cross this particular divide, the NFC West would never look quite the same again. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.